And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't use the word calm in this this time, Tyler. I would probably use the word sad. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You can follow us on X at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe for sure on Apple to get your podcasts, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, and wherever you get your audio. This is a tough this is a bit of a sad start to the program, no question. It's been kind of first of all, let me say hello to Sean. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Hi, Kev. I'm all right. Yes. I don't blame you for wanting to sort of get talking about Cheech here pretty right away and skipping over me, because he is the important one here.
It was a bit weird on Monday night when it was the ESPN broadcast that was essentially producing the Vegas Utah game 4, and it was just weird. And then we found out Tuesday morning, John Garrett passed away suddenly at the age of 74, and just absolutely beloved by not only the Canucks community, but I remember first listening to John Garrett with, just on the side note, the irony of lists here. Anyway, on his list of broadcasts, I remember listening to him calling Flames games with Ed Whalen back in the days of 2-7, when that Global was 2-7 at the time, not to age myself. But he called games on Hockey Night in Canada. I do believe he actually called games and color commentated games mostly for the Canucks, but I do believe he did call for a color commentate for every Canadian team, including the old Winnipeg Jets. I do believe that that's part of his resume as well, looking at that list that he had for all the commentators. First of all, just in terms of a playing career, some of the teams he played with in his career: Kansas City Blues, Richmond Robins, Portland Buckaroos, the Minnesota Fighting Saints. These are some great team names. The Birmingham Bulls, not, kind of normal. New England.
I mean, that's the WHA, man. Yeah. WHA was a different animal, and something that all of us, like it's before my time. We have no idea what it was like.
Yeah. Well, no, the Robins were the AHL, the Buckaroos were the WHL, and the Blues were the CHL. But he did have a 7-year career with the WHA, including the Fighting Saints, Toronto Toros, Birmingham Bulls, and New England Whalers. He did play with the Hartford Whalers, Quebec Nordiques, and the Vancouver Canucks. And then he was also played back at the end of his career with the Fredericton Express. But he was the color commentator voice of the Vancouver, mostly. As I said, he did broadcast all across Canada, but his mainstay was the Vancouver Canucks. And you, Sean, had a chance to meet him.
I did. So for one of our old sponsors on the show, the Pig and Duke Pub here in Calgary, had a big burger challenge, the pig burger challenge, and I spent a couple years, like sort of 2015 to 2017, pestering Dan Murphy to get him and Cheech, and I was also hoping for Shorty, but it didn't happen, to come in and try and do it, just because you had John Garrett, always loving to talk about food. And so it took, like I said, it took a couple seasons for the stars to align and the schedules to line up so that they had the time to do it. And on November 17th, 2027, November 2017, I was lucky enough to go to organize that with them, met up with them for essentially lunch at the Pig and Duke Pub downtown Calgary, and watch both Murph and she's trying to eat that monstrous burger, and that was great. It was a lot of fun, but it also was just awesome to meet both Dan Murphy and John Garrett, and everything I've heard from all the people that have done tributes and just talked about their experiences with him just lines up with the short time I got to spend with him, and just a genuinely good human being, someone who understood the privilege that he had in the position that he had, and how to treat people in that, when you're in that position. And I will treasure. I've got a great picture of me, Cheech, and Murph from that day, and I will treasure it forever, just because just John Garrett, John Shorthouse specifically are the voices of a generation of Canucks hockey that it wasn't my formative years, but being someone who grew up in Calgary, I didn't get a lot of the local Canucks broadcasts based off of my age, not having access to the regional coverage until a little bit later on, and that was when Shorty and Cheech were the voices of Canucks regional broadcasts, and it's not like we got to say goodbye to him in that role a couple of years ago. It hasn't been the same since, and it won't be the same. Even more so won't be the same now that he's gone.
Yeah, it's he just had a kind of, he talked. I kind of that sometimes when you go to a sporting event and there's a guy that knows more than you and just can explain things better, and it's not like he never used a telestrator, he never, he was not the stop it right here and the technical stuff, but he just simply could explain the game in a way that was quite normal. Like, I think that's the best way I could describe him, is his style was just, he was a normal human being who had fun and didn't, like, he took his job seriously, but he had fun doing it. And he just like, I've never met him, but every tribute that I heard is everybody just was, just found him to be a very kind human being, a genuine human being. I mean, I think the two that I would recommend it if you haven't listened to yet, just the raw emotion that John Shorthouse showed on Halfin and Brough, just shortly after they announced that. And then Shorty and Murphy were on the pregame yesterday with Anaheim and Edmonton, and Kevin Bieksa shared some really good stories as well. Those are two I would really recommend that you find out. And even Joey Kenward, who's on that list, shared some really good stuff as well on 650. There's a lot of really good memories of him, and just my thoughts are to the family. My thoughts are to Shorthouse and John Shorthouse and Murphy, and I just feel so gutted for everybody. I'm even gutted for Harder Ryan Singh, who is the last one on that list, and how devastated he must be feeling right now. It's a shocker because no one expected it. It's just so fresh because he was just with us a moment ago, and I feel like the connection here with John Garrett and Jim, I just want to connect the two. I know they're not fully connected because they're two different generations of broadcasters, but they're the same thing. I think both of them, when you heard tributes of Robson and when you heard tributes of Garrett, both of them it was very similar. They were genuine people. They cared about the fans. I mean, Robson's famous call was always hello to all those in the hospital and who are not able to come out. And it felt like Garrett took that spirit of what Jim Robson was taking it and made it a different way. And both were just really genuine human beings. And it really, like all the talk of culture in Vancouver, Sean, the last little while, those two in a weird way embody what I think people are looking for.
Yeah. I've always had these thoughts when the celebrity dies and how I react. Because most of the time I'm pretty stoic about it. But this one hit me hard. Like, I had a couple good cries yesterday. Listening, like the raw emotion of Shorty on Halford and Bruff, and then seeing it on his face when he was on the pregame. Sometimes these events hit you harder than you expect, and this one did. He was, as multiple people said, and you reiterated, Kev. He took his job seriously, but didn't take himself seriously. He loved being ribbed. He loved being teased and joke and being the butt of a joke if it made someone laugh. He loved just when the games were exciting. The chemistry that John Garrett and John Shorthouse had together was just, there's nothing like it. I don't think there's anything. There's another broadcasting duo that have that in terms of a play-by-play and a color analyst, because they just had this chemistry that no one could touch. They were just like more. They were Stadler and Waldorf if they were willing to willing to be the butt of the jokes, like making fun of themselves and Cheech having his love for food and his love for ketchup and everything just added to it just made him feel like the everyday man. And I think that was his appeal. You have other people who are just really, really good at their jobs and just were like Jim Robson, a voice of a generation in Vancouver, and he did welcome you in and he made you feel comfortable and all that. But with Cheech, he felt like you were your fun uncle. He felt like you're one of your buddies that you met at you would go for drinks at the bar with and shoot the shit. That's how he felt. He felt like family. And that's just something that very, very few people are able to do, even if you haven't met him. And like I said, I was lucky enough to meet him, and in person, he's just that way anyway. Like that's just who he is, and it just comes across in the broadcast. But yes, he had, as I said, he just had that ability to make you feel like family, and it just like no one else that I've been able to that I can pinpoint, right, like in terms of sports broadcasters.
Yeah, and it was something I've been sort of thinking about too, because I'm in the broadcasting world, and it's a pinnacle. Everybody, it's hard. It's very hard to get to where Garrett got to in terms of just having the skill to feel like you can be yourself. I think everybody tries to be themselves. I feel like I'm myself all the time, and but there's also a ton of pressure out there to be somebody else, to be like, especially when you sometimes in your days of comparison. I'm just going to be a little vomit here. You look at other people that kind of blow things up with extremely hot takes, and they get a reaction, and sometimes you're like, should you be that way? And the answer to that question is always no, because I do think that authenticity is the more powerful way to be a broadcaster than being a blustering idiot. Because often when you're a blustering idiot, you turn out to be an actual idiot. When you're yourself, it's you're yourself, right? Like, and I think that that's what John Garrett captured that in such an amazing way. And who does that really well, Sean, with us is Tyler. Tyler is a great example of just someone who is just simply himself. He never blows up. He's never had a rant. Well, he's had a couple of rants, but they're kind of Tyler kind of rants. Like when he does it, you kind of stop and listen. It's not an explosion. And that's what I feel like with Garrett. Like whenever he would get on officials at times for bad calls. And when he did that, I think you were like, yeah, get him, John. You tell them they're wrong, right? Like, but he never, like, he was just always kind of genuine in himself. And I think that type of broadcaster is starting. We need that. I think that's the big lesson, is that broadcaster needs to remain. And that's the broadcaster I want to be, as I go forward. But it's a huge loss. Like this one is a gut puncher. And for a generation of, I think especially for this generation of Canuck fans who we have been dealing with some really shitty, pardon my French, but just been some really shitty hockey the last 10 years. And, the one way to get yourself through it has been Shorty and Garrett, and not having Garrett around anymore is just sucks.
It does. Yeah. It just, yeah, it is. I do think, yeah, people need to look at what he did, why he was able to, yeah, be serious when he needed to be serious, but be funny when he needed to be funny. And 90% of the time when he was trying to be funny, it wasn't at other people's expense. I think that's part of the problem right now, is that the majority of people, the attempts at humor and comedy come at other people's expense. And there's a time and place for that, but I do think that we need to be much more, I think people need to look inward and be a little more self-deprecating, just because it shows a confidence in yourself, and it makes people like, I feel like it makes, if you do it right, it makes you feel more endearing. And that, again, I think that if there's a word to describe John Garrett, it's endearing.
Yeah. It's and by the way, it's no different disrespect to Ray Ferraro and Dave Tomlinson, and they do a good job. It's just, as you said, Garrett was the uncle. Garrett was, as Shorthouse called, dad, and there's just something different from that. Like,
and honestly, you see Garrett's influence on Ray Ferraro, and Ray's analyst side is no one's better than him, but he also makes fun of himself. Like he's not afraid to make fun of himself, and that is the impact of following someone like Cheech.
Yeah. Yeah. I have something. Just hang on a second. This is poor podcasting.
This is a raw podcast. So this one feels like you're kind of allowed to do that.
In honor, I don't know if you can see this, but I have a hot dog in honor of Cheech. So there you go.
We're talking like one of the stories that they had about Cheech was like when we would go to Toronto, he would have he would get fried chicken and KFC for one of the guys there, and I think to start first Canucks game next year, I think there's going to be some KFC hot dog or something of that sort in this house in honor of John.
Yeah, it's this is and I'm sure like we didn't put it. We're not going to talk what the Canucks should do with John Garrett next year, because I think that it's too raw right now to have that conversation. They will do something. You know they will do something, and the family, the not only his inner family but his outer work family, all of his colleagues, just absolutely gutted, and yeah. We will talk a little Canucks, but most of our rest is talking about the playoffs. There have been, I think it's kind of funny, the connection with that Garrett list with the conversation about lists for the last week. Apparently the list of Jericho, Rachel's list from Friends, the Festivus list of grievances, grocery lists all came together this week. And the Canucks are still in the interviewing process of finding their general manager. There's a number of names out there. We're not going to go through the list of names. We're not going to make a prediction. But kind of what is your takeaway of what is going on here?
Well, I think when they fired Halveen and Rutherford had his presser about that, there was questions about Jim Rutherford's future and everything like that. And I think what it's looking like is they're not going to be just hiring a new GM. They're going to be looking at, I think, multiple positions in that front office, including maybe hiring a vice president who will take over from Jim Rutherford in a season or two. And I know we said we weren't going to go through some names, but I do think that it's fair to go through a few names here, just because in terms of that position. Because we've heard Shane Doan's name mentioned. We've heard even Marcus Naslin's name mentioned, Ray Whitney. And those ones, they scream that position, like a vice president moving into the president of hockey operations, more than like an actual general manager. And I know people are going to like scream and yell about how they need to take care of that position and then the GM. We don't know the whole process here, but if they bring in that like a VP who's basically going to be the heir apparent to Rutherford, they have that they're going to have that conversation with them and have like, are you like, does this make, for us bringing in this GM right now, does that make sense to you? Are you willing to work with them? That has to be part of that conversation. And I don't think it's going to be. I don't think they're gonna skip that part of the conversation. So, and I think that's what they need. They need someone. I think they do need a president of hockey ops between the GM and ownership. And I think they need someone who has the ability to communicate well, as well as find whatever happens, the whole setup. They have a lot of work to regain the confidence of the market. So it is going to be a tough job, but yeah, I think with the names out there for potential, I think are going to be probably VP going into president of hockey ops roles, and then if they can get the right general manager in as well as other people involved, but hopefully, and rebuild this team properly, I think that should happen. But it's a long way to go now, and right now there's just lots of reports and rumors and speculation on who's been interviewed, who hasn't been interviewed, who the Canucks may or may not be interested in. So it is tough, but tough to really suss through all that. What is real, what isn't. But I think if they do, I like the idea of bringing in someone like a Shane Doan, Ray Whitney, or someone like that to be a VP, to learn the president of hockey ops role under Rutherford, and then move on from there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think that they're, again, if the people that were screaming about 92 lists would have been upset that there was not 92 lists, and they limited the process and they only went after Ryan Johnson as an example. They need to go through this process to kind of figure out A, what's out there, B, is there someone that is going to replace someone else, and they needed to do an exhaustive search. Now, obviously, Patrick Allvin was not going to be part of this process, so you move on from him, and that's totally fine and fair. We talked about that last week. My question to you is, are you surprised none of the assistant GMs have been mentioned? The Caston Gays, the Cami Granados, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Ryan Johnson is assistant GM, and he's been mentioned.
Okay, other than Ryan, I was about to say, other than Ryan Johnson, we have not. The Sedins are not assistant GMs, but we have not heard from Granado, Caston Gay, or the Sedins in this process. And are you surprised by that?
No, and the reason is that I think Caston Gay was an agent. Her strength is more along the lines of the contract details, which the Canucks need. So that I think that makes sense. That they're like I think she still needs a little bit more experience in terms of like sort of on the scouting side and learning everything. She still needs a little bit more experience, in my opinion, as does Cami. I think she, like, her on the scouting side is fantastic, but maybe I just don't know if the fit's there just yet. I think both of them are very strong candidates for a GM role in the future, whether that's with the Canucks or not, just not quite yet. And then the Sedins, the other issues, are any of those people actually interested to be that? Like, if the Sedins seem like the guys that enjoy more of the player development, and that's where they've been spending most of their time doing. So I think it depends on what like those people want versus as well as let's look what the Canucks are looking for. I think one thing I saw is that it's going to be tough for the because of the animal that the market is. They might be looking more for someone with a little bit more experience, at least in the GM role here. So I think that's also sort of why we haven't heard much from the other assistant GMs outside of Ryan Johnson, who was, for the reason why he's probably getting a little bit more play, that he's getting more play with that, is because he was the GM. He ran Abbotsford. He oversaw Abbotsford, while Cammy's more just assistant GM about sort of with pro scout, focused on pro scouting. And then Caston Gay was assistant GM, more focused on the contracts and cap side of things. So Well, Castengay, like I said, I think Castengay is probably a stronger candidate than Cammy at this point, but it's just I think they just from my opinion they just need a little more seasoning. And like if you want to yell and scream at me about whether you got Mike Gillis came in as a fresh agent and made things work in Vancouver for a little bit there, I can see that, and maybe I'm wrong on that. As well as why am I drawing? There's Jeff Gorton in Montreal. He came in as an agent and went to the Rangers and had some success, and then has moved on to Montreal and has done a good job there. So I think I think they were going to have like one or two internal candidates, and they chose the one with Ryan Johnson, and then the rest they want to look elsewhere. And they need to. They're looking at, just going outside of the bubble and seeing who can come in and bring fresh ideas, and with someone who might have just a little bit more experience overseeing the whole thing. And that's why Ryan Johnson's name has been a little bit more mentioned and everything, is because he was the GM of Abbotsford.
Yeah. So one thing to remember with Mike Gillis is he had Lawrence Gilman around, which helped a lot.
Yeah.
And the question would be, that's one thing. And I wonder if they bring someone in an AGM role with a bit more experience. They do have Dale Talon still in the organization as a name. I'm not saying that it should be him. I know that name's a little controversial, but that's an example of someone that has some experience at GM. And there have been some names out there that have some experience. And as an example, and this is something we've been kicking around a bit on the Flames side of the Shifts and Pucks podcast, is the idea that eventually Dave Nonis is an AGM in Calgary, and we have had the discussion that he eventually takes over for Don Maloney and kind of slides above that eventually, and they quietly move Maloney out of the organization. I could see that happening a little bit, that you bring someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, but you have a veteran behind him in an AGM role that you could eventually move to the president of hockey operations once footing is set. I could see that. It's not a realm of possibility to me. So I think you're right. I think they're looking at a number of different things. And I wonder, I mean, if Ryan Johnson is moving on, you're going to have to replace that Abbotsford Canuck GM job. And I do wonder if Castengay or Granato are considered in that role, and how they.
I'd say that's more of a Granato role than a Castengay role at this point. With how complex the CBA is and everything, that is more Castengay's bread and butter, and that's not necessarily, unless that's what she wants to do. That's not necessarily what you're going to be doing in the AHL. Like, I could totally see Cammy Granato taking over that role. Like, she loves going out and scouting and watching hockey, and I think that's where her, based off of what we've heard from her as well as Ray when he talks about her, that's kind of the vibe I get. Right, so it's gonna be like, I don't think they need to bring in another, like, someone veteran necessarily. It just depends on who the GM hire, like the two hires are, I think is what it is. He said you've got Dale Talon there. It's not like Cammy Granato and Emily Castengay are raw rookies who haven't been doing this for a couple years, right? No. So I don't think you necessarily need that yet, like, really. And then, like, if Rutherford's going to stay on too, right? The sounds like the vibe I'm getting is that unless they get the right person that can come in and just like swap out Rutherford, he's going to stay on and be the mentor that you're kind of I get that you're alluding to.
I suspect we're not going to hear a lot from Rutherford going forward. I think the last time we'll hear from Rutherford, one of the last times we'll hear from Rutherford, is when they hire the GM. And I think he's going to pass the baton off to whoever it is. And I think he's just going to kind of step back quietly.
Well, I think he'll just be in the background.
Yeah.
Like he'll still be there helping people out and all that, but it'll be the new GM who will be the face and the voice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think ultimately, I don't think you need to react to every single conversation that is happening out there. I mean, I know that the people are giving a play-by-play and is this the guy or is this the guy? Or, I mean, I even saw an article that tossing is suggesting that they bring back Gillis and Gilman. I just think, I think wait this out and see. The one name I do think is interesting that Elliot Friedman brought up today in 32 Thoughts that they asked permission for was Scott Niedermayer in Anaheim. I do think that that's one other interesting name that I'm keeping an eye on. I know that he's in a pretty good situation in Anaheim, but I do think, like, you look at the Shane Doan and the BC connection and some of the other names has that BC connection. Scott Niedermayer, of course, has a huge BC connection as well. So, it's be interesting. Nothing to panic, and I don't think that they need to fill it by the lottery next week or anything like that. And I think they're doing the right thing by just going through a thoughtful process. I know that some people are. All this list stuff was just, I thought, was ridiculous. Like, of course, what that essentially was a Google Doc that everybody was overreacting to. Like, we have a Google Doc, like, or everybody has a Google Doc that you share information with, and it's like, oh my gosh, people are talking about a Google Doc. How dare they?
There's speculation. There's armchair GMing owner, however you want to describe it, going on out there right now, whether it is with this, whether it's what the Canucks do with the draft. And you have to take a step back and not overreact to what, like, just look at it. Is this a rumor? Did they say that they are actually doing this, or is this someone just speculating? Like, it just, I think and if any, like right now, I think it's been quite quiet, honestly, and that's why people are kind of grasping onto every little bit of news, and the fact that it is quiet, I think, is good.
Yeah,
because I think that's what this, as much as like the media and this fan base love drama, I think that the less noise coming from Vancouver, the Canucks right now, the better.
True.
Like, you look at what everything going on in Toronto too for the same thing. Like, it seems like that's even worse in terms of like speculation, reporting, and rumors and everything on who, when, where, why, and everything. Like, it doesn't. I don't think it helps anyone to do that, other than the media for engagement and content.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of drama, let's get to the NHL playoffs. And speaking of drama, let's just quickly go back to, my God, the overreaction to Oiler fans for the game on Sunday. I do have I have this shtick. I'm not gonna lie. I guess I have a little bit. Everybody has a little bit of a something, but me and Oiler fans, we are oil and water, I guess, is a good pun. But oh my God, maybe you see this differently, but the complete overreaction to, I think, quite frankly, was a very obvious goal on Sunday. Like the whole thing that got me was like, yeah, it's a goal, but I didn't like how they found out it was a goal, because How are the referees were in position? Because they actually had a discussion about whether or not it was in. And you got upset that they got a discussion. They had a discussion then about with what they saw. Someone obviously saw the puck go in. That's why they ruled the puck was in.
And regardless of whether or not the what the quote unquote call on the ice was, that was going to get called a goal.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
So all this moaning and hand wringing and whinging about the call on the ice is completely missing the point. Unless you think the puck is not a circle, and you think it's got a little like bump out the one side there that kept it from going over they got the call right. Let's move on. Let's stop. Let's stop having fake outrage over this.
Yeah. To his credit, our friend Graham Moseman did say that was a goal and the controversy was nonsense.
Yep.
So that. But other than that, the Oilers did stave off elimination at home. And where are you? Does this series end up 7? Or does Anaheim put it away?
Oh. I don't know. This series has been so chaotic.
This has been the most insane series ever, like all of them.
It's so chaotic, and it hurts my eyes to watch that damn series. There's too much orange on my screen.
Both of those jerseys are just ugly, oogle eye, ugly.
I'll say the Ducks do it. I think that we got McDavid playing hurt. We don't know how close to 100% Draisaitl is. Oilers goaltending is Oilers goaltending at this point. I'll say they pull it out tomorrow and find a way.
The things that have impressed me for the Ducks are Mason McTavish has found his game and he's playing really well right now. Jackson Lacombe has been the best defenseman in this series. I don't even think that that's actually much of a debate, with all due respect to the Oilers' love for Evan Bouchard, which I feel like the Oilers fans love Evan Bouchard. The rest of the NHL does not love Evan Bouchard, and I feel like the truth of Evan Bouchard is somewhere in between that. I also think the bottom 6 of the Ducks have just been so much better than the Oilers' bottom 6, other than Kasperi Kapanen. That has been, like, to me, the veterans, like the Jeffrey Veals, the Ryan Palins, those guys have been just a huge difference. And I don't think the Ducks have given a real rat's ass about that they have McDavid and Draisaitl, because they know that they can score goals.
Yeah.
And that's been the difference. They're not in the least bit intimidated by this Oilers team in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we said going in, is we felt that they had the horses to run with the Oilers in this series, and they haven't backed down.
No. Kudos to them for sure. The other series, we'll go with Minnesota, Dallas. Minnesota takes the 3-2 series lead. The only way that Dallas seems to be able to score in this series is on a power play, because 5-on-5, this has been all Minnesota. I know they kind of hate watching this, but I've been impressed with Minnesota. I mean, the two guys that have really impressed me is Brock Faber and that Michael McCarron, especially the last half of the third period there. He gets the winning in game 5, gets a winning goal, blocks a couple of shots, turns that game around. The 2019 draft is just as fast. It's just something I've been thinking a lot about. And there's a legitimate argument. I will listen to an argument that Matt Boldy should be the first. If you do a redraft, that Matt Boldy is the first pick. I do not think that is an insane take. I don't know if you do or not, but
No, I don't even look at it that way. I just when we talk about that draft, that's the draft that the Canucks drafted Podkolzin. And everyone was screaming about how they should have taken Caulfield, but it's Boldy that the Canucks should have taken. Like it's not, and both of them are really good players. It's just Boldy's big, mean, and can score 40 goals in a season. Like
yeah.
So
yeah.
Like I said, I don't think we need to really. The redraft stuff is always interesting, but no, he wouldn't go first overall. Like you still have Jack Hughes there, Kev. Who's a center.
Positionally wise, for sure, that would be the way to consider. But
let alone Moritz Seider.
Yeah, he's in there.
But I think it's you got. I would say Caulfield, Boldy, Seider, and Jack Hughes are head and shoulders above anyone else in that draft.
There's one other guy. I think that would. I don't know where you put him, but I think Dustin Wolf would be drafted much higher.
Much higher, but not top 5, Kevin.
Not yet. Let's see in 5 years.
You've got Thomas Harley. Like he's really good.
Was that Bowen too? Wasn't he?
Bowen Byram is in that draft. Yeah, like. Kev, I know. Look, you're a Flames fan. Like you've got your Homer glasses on there and everything, but Dustin Wolf is still very unproven as a starting goaltender, and whether or not he can actually like do that, like everything. Like it's like he might like you can make an argument that he might not even be the first goaltender off the board, even in a redraft at this point too. You've got Spencer Knight.
Oh, I'd take Wolf over Knight. Right now? I would. And that's not owning Homer gases. I think I would consider that for sure.
Spencer Knight, like he's been good since coming over to Chicago. He hasn't had the opportunities up until this year that Wolf got. That's the issue, right? And I'm not saying I'm taking Spencer. I'm just saying that you can make an argument that Wolf is not not your first goalie off the board here.
Yeah. The point is about that draft is that it just turned out to be a really good draft. Like there's a lot of really good players in that draft. Anyway, Höglander, Jackson Lacomb's in that draft too, by the way.
Jackson Lacombe, like. Shane Pinto's really has turned into a solid player. Alex Newhook's found his game in Montreal. Zegras is there, right? Dorofeev. So but that's the thing is you've got. It's why when people yell and scream about top 5 picks and tanking, it's missing the point.
Yeah.
Because like in this draft, if we remember correctly, it was Jack Hughes and then maybe Capo Caco, who like was gonna hopefully they thought maybe might do it. Kirby Dach came out of nowhere and got drafted 3rd overall. Right, so.
And Steve Yzerman took criticism for taking Seider over Broberg.
Yep.
I remember that. People were like, "What the hell are you thinking there?" So
like I said, in terms of that draft, Jack Hughes, Boldy, Caulfield, and Seider are head and shoulders above everyone else at this point. What Wolf could get into that conversation, but he's not there yet.
Yeah. I picked Minnesota. I'm feeling pretty confident about that. I haven't really been super impressed, to be honest with you. I feel like Mikko Rantanen has been far too quiet in the series. He has 1 goal. I know he has 6 points, but I just haven't really noticed him. It just, the 5-on-5 has been the difference in that series for the Wild to me.
It's interesting with that because the expected goals are for the Wild, or for the most part for the Wild, but the actual shot attempts are it's been Dallas for the most part that's carried it as that. So, but yeah, Dallas is missing Rupe Hintz.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and then that's big. That's big. So,
yeah. That's that series. And then the other one that's going on right now is Utah and Vegas, and the series tied at 2. This game, that series is at its own chaos. Goaltending optional. By the way, we'll get to that in a second. Goaltending has been mostly optional in that series, but it's Utah's giving them a run. Vegas 3-0 lead. Utah comes back. Vegas wins in overtime. Utah is up 1-0 late in the first, by the way, as we're recording this. This has been a pretty fun series. And Dylan, another sort of Vancouver connection, unfortunately, Dylan Guenther, and the possibility of taking him in that instead of that trade.
No, move on. Move the fuck on that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for exploding and being animated. Let's move the fuck on.
Okay, but Dylan Guenther,
because we don't know if they would have taken Guenther. That's the thing. We don't know.
Okay. Anyway, Dylan Guenther has been really good in this series. He's stepped up. Logan Cooley stepped up. I really like Mikhail Sergachev in this series. I just feel like Utah has overall been the faster team, but both goalies need to be better. I think that's my conclusion of this. And the better of these two goalies, and I'm really kind of surprised that Tortorella is sticking with Carter Hart. I'm really surprised. With him. I kind of think that they should.
He knows him. He knows him.
Yeah, from Philly. Yeah. I would have went to Hill at some point for one game, at least. But
also, Kev, we're missing the point. The old Flames are almost fighting.
I know. I wanted to avoid that because, like you said already.
Why?
Because you talked about my Flame Homer glasses, so I didn't want to bring that up again. But yes,
but that's fun.
It is. It is fun. I'm kind of disappointed that Anderson hasn't stared at Uyghur yet. I hope they do that at the handshake, but at the end of the series. But Utah has been ultimately the faster team. Vegas has used their experience to hang in there. By the way, we keep forgetting there's 3 former Flames in this series with defensemen, with Noah Hannafin being in this. He's kind of been the forgotten Flame.
Because he hasn't been a Flame for a couple seasons.
Yeah, I know. The fresh Flames are Anderson and Uyghur, but yeah, I kind of felt Utah's been the faster team. And yeah, I picked Utah to win, and I'm feeling confident about that one.
I mean, 2-2. Whoever wins this game, I feel like whoever wins this game will win the series.
Probably.
Yeah.
Pretty good atmosphere in Delta 2 and the Delta Center 2. It's been kind of fun to watch, and yeah.
No, it hasn't.
Been kind of why?
They're a conference rival. Screw them.
Right.
Don't care how many games they win. Screw them.
All right. Colorado and the Kings went with the way we expected. It wasn't a waste of 8 or 9 days. It was an expected 8 or 9 days. Do you feel Scott Wedgwood was snubbed for Vezina?
I don't know, Kev. I'll be bluntly honest. I have not followed enough of the outside of the Canucks this year have an opinion on that.
Okay, fair enough. I think he's been really good. I don't know if I would consider him in the Vezina. I think they got it right for the most part. I think it's between Vasilevsky and Sorokin anyway. That there wasn't not really much to talk about. I guess it is going to be really interesting to see what the Kings turn out to be going forward, because that's a really old team that probably needs to get real young real quick. And their last rebuild / retool didn't quite.
They didn't rebuild.
There is more, depending on your perspective. I think it was more of a retool. But it didn't, whatever they tried to redo, they didn't work out as well as they have. And you got to kind of decide what you're going to do here. No Kopitar next year. Hall of Fame, first ballot. But that's an older team. And you signed Artemi Panarin to a pretty hefty contract. I'm very interested to see what happens in LA.
Yeah.
22 regular season wins the LA Kings had. Anyway. That's the West. In the East, the best series by far, I think the best series of the playoffs has been Montreal-Tampa Bay. It's been a lot of fun. Montreal wins 3-2 tonight and lead in the series 3-2, which is going to make for an incredible Friday night at Bell Center. I don't mind saying how much that's just the great atmosphere. Nick Suzuki has been great in this series. Another 2019 pick has been great in this series in Kirby Dach. Speaking of age gap trades, that was an age gap trade. Montreal traded their 13th pick and Al Romanoff in a 3-team trade to get Kirby Dach, who at the time was 22, which apparently is too old to play hockey. And look what Kirby Dach is doing now. And I know that this guy hasn't been always productive, but this guy has been fighting a lot of injuries, and he's been a monster in this series. He's been really good. I've really enjoyed watching him. I'm anticipating this going 7, though. It's just too close to call. Both of these teams are great. It's sad one of them has to be eliminated.
No, it's not. It's fucking playoff hockey, Kevin. Someone has to be eliminated.
Yeah, I know. It's been my
favorite.
And
it'll be Habs and 6. They're gonna win it at home, and the Bell Center is just gonna explode.
Hope you're right. And then Boston, Buffalo, that's going 6 after a great goal by David Pastrnak. Whatever Jeremy Swayman said at the bench on Sunday kind of woke that team up. They knew that they were complete shit at home. I still think Buffalo wins this series, but Boston will make it interesting.
Buffalo, like that. That barn's been fantastic, and yeah, I think they just from what I've watched, Buffalo just has it this year. Has it this year over Boston. I think they'll find a way. Yeah.
And 2 series have wrapped up. One did wrap up tonight. The Philadelphia Flyers finally eliminated the Pittsburgh Penguins 1-0.
Gross.
Yeah. Oh my God. Ugh. Sorry. I know there's Flyers fans out there, but I wanted Pittsburgh.
Don't apologize to Flyers fans. They're still going to boo you anyways. That's the Philly way.
They boo anyway. They greet you with a boo. I believe that when you go to the airport, they just go boo, boo. Anyway, yeah.
No, Kevin, they're saying boo earns.
I was saying boo earns. Yeah. This will be petty, but the Flyers are not going to last very long with the Hurricanes.
Oh God, no. Nope.
No, that is, yeah. But kudos to the Penguins for for surpassing a ton of expectations this year. And we'll see where they go. They still need to get younger. They still probably need to be in a retool rebuild mode. But yeah, as long as you have Crosby, you have a chance. That's the thing. But I think ultimately they got a lot. One of the things I do think happened in Pittsburgh is they got unexpected production from people like Ben Kindle and Anthony Mantha and Parker Witherspoon. And they're going to have to, in order to stay in the position that they are, they're going to have to get that kind of production again. And I don't know if they can do it. I guess that's going to be the fascinating thing. And who's in goal next year? Because Arthur Seelov certainly made an impression with the Penguins the last few games there. So I wonder what's next for Stuart Skinner.
I mean, honestly, like, let's see here. He still signed? Because if he is, he's not. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back to him, like back to Seelovs and Skinner as a tandem. Remember, this is essentially a tandem goalie league these days, unless you've got a true bona fide guy. So I don't think and you've got freaking Dubas as the GM. I don't see him trying to reinvent the wheel here. Skinner and Sheelovs were solid enough to get them into the playoffs. And goaltending was not their issue.
No. There was a few other issues, and they just couldn't get a lot of shots on goal. And I think if they win one of those first 3 games, I think they probably win the series. But when you're down 3-0, it's hard to come back and win.
And as you said, they're an old team. You've got 38-year-old Crosby, 39-year-old Malkin, 33-year-old Russ, 32-year-old Ricard Raquel. Kevin Hayes at 33, Mantha 31, Nola Chari 34, and that's just up front, right? Let alone you got Letang 39, Carlson 35. Like, just they do have some younger players that they have. They've got Ben Kindle came in and made the team out of camp that no one expected. They've made some good trades for some younger players. And they've got Rutger McGroarty, who I think they'll expect to take a step next year. Let alone Harrison Bernicki, who got some games this year. Like they do have some younger players, but they need them to step up if they're not gonna take a step back next year.
No. Yeah. And then Carolina swept Ottawa. Carolina did not trail at any point in this series. It was essentially a throttling without being a throttling. I'll start with Ottawa first because I think that that everybody's eyes are here. But I said it on social media. I do not think the Senators should trade Brady Tkachuk. I know he was bad. No points in the playoffs is not good. But if you're
007,
what's that?
0 goals, 0 assists, averaging 7 penalty minutes a game.
Yeah. I just think if you're trading him, you might as well follow up and trade Jake Sanderson next. Essentially, you're going into a rebuild. You're just flat out and perpetually. If you're Ottawa, you're just not getting that type of. No matter how many trades Hot Take Hockey puts on his Twitter, none of them are going to be winner trades for them. You just can't do it at this point. And if I'm Ottawa, I just need to find a way to calm the waters. It's not a bad team. They just got beaten by literal robots. And
how dare you?
They're a robot.
Seth Jarvis is not a fucking robot. He actually has personality.
It's actually a compliment in a lot of ways. I just think that they are so. We talk about identity. We had this whole long conversation about the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames about identity. The Hurricanes know who the hell they are. And I know that people find it boring, but they just know who the hell they are. And that's the team. They just are so systematic. They're so consistent. They're unraveled. I mean, you look back at the very first moment of this series, Brady Tkachuk and Jordan all have a fight, and it doesn't even phase the Hurricanes one little bit. Frederick Anderson comes from nowhere, makes all these big saves. They are just, and Logan Stankoven was just, and Taylor Hall, all these guys, they just know what they're doing. They know their role. They play their game. It is boringly efficient. It works for them. It works for them up to, I mean, we'll see if they get to the finals this year, but they're such an efficient team. They are. It's seemingly boring in a lot of ways, but they're
I don't find them boring at all. I find them. I don't find them boring at all. Anyone says they're boring, just I don't understand it. It's good hockey. It's fun hockey to watch.
Sorry, I thought I lost you there. It's not as chaotic as Anaheim Edmonton, so I think a lot of fans don't particularly find it like super exciting, but it's I just describe it as perfect. It's so efficient. I mean, it's fast. It's like they're not overly entertaining, but they're perfect at what they do. It's so efficient.
Was the Olympics boring, Kevin?
No, it was fantastic.
That's the type of hockey the Hurricanes play.
Yeah.
I think calling them boring is an insult because that's just good fucking hockey.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that back, but ultimately that's what Carolina is. And they play perfectly to their identity. And Ottawa needs to figure that out. That was the difference in the series. And
Ottawa played to their identity too. It just wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that Ottawa, I do think that at times Ottawa didn't get, I don't want to say Ottawa didn't get to their moment. It did feel to me that Ottawa was at times overwhelmed. Not like, I don't know how to, give me a second to describe it here.
Look, Kevin, what I'm saying is that Ottawa, chaos is Ottawa right now. That the identity of that team is chaos, whether it's on the ice or off the ice right now. But they had enough skill on that team to make the playoffs, but they did not have enough skill and they did not have enough discipline to beat the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And I think what they need to find is they need to sort of not new identity, but they need to just shape the identity slightly differently and have a little bit more discipline. And that starts with Brady. As fun as Brady is, who drop in the mitts at the beginning of every fucking big game that he's allowed to, I don't think that helps.
Nope.
All it does is it riles up the boys, and then next thing you know, you've got Ridley Gregg sucker punching someone in a scrum. Right?
Yep.
So they're they take after their captain, and their captain is chaotic.
Yes. Yeah. They need somebody in that lineup to bring a bit of calmness in that. They need a Jordan Stahl as an example. That type of, or Michael Backlund type of guy who can come in there and bring, my Flames glasses on. Yes. But that, you know what I mean? That kind of, that veteran bottom six guy that can bring a level
well, it should have been Giroux. It should have been Giroux, but this is still Brady's team, and that's like it. I don't think that bringing in someone like that will do anything. Not until like it's up to Brady to figure it out and to just calm down a little bit and just play fucking hockey.
You remember the Calgary Dallas series a few years ago? His brother did the same damn thing. He made everything in the beginning a huge drama mess, and it didn't help the Flames.
No.
He got into a fight with John Klingberg at the early, just like you're right. I think Brady needs to calm down, but I don't think the Senators should trade him. To
be honest, Kev, it all comes down to what Brady wants.
Yeah.
I know he's done everything to sort of calm the waters as much as possible, but we've seen this before. We've seen this with his brother. We've seen this with Quinn Hughes. If he wants out, it doesn't matter what Ottawa wants.
No.
If he wants to stay, you keep him. Yes, because if you trade him, as you said, unless you're getting someone of the same level of superstar, it's not going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Anything else with the playoffs?
Just a couple things. Just because the Kings and Ottawa, who were the 8th seed, that's technically the 8 seeds, in this loss doesn't mean that we need to expand the playoffs. Like, just calm your tits, people. Like, at some point, we watch next year, we will get an upset, and just having a play in and to tire out those bottom seeds even more doesn't help anything either. So I think there's that, as well as I was watching Jeff Merrick, and he had Pierre McGuire on talking about a lot of the after whistle stuff and the sticks and stick infractions and everything. And he made a good point that we do have a younger crop of officials right now, and they are learning on the job here. So I've enjoyed the chaos. I've enjoyed the rough stuff, and because that's part of what makes playoff hockey awesome, part of what makes NHL hockey awesome. But I think we will see the officials learn year on year here, with all this, and it won't unfortunately won't stay this chaotic every year.
No, I haven't thought it's been that chaotic. I think there's been some series that were more chaotic than others. Boston Buffalo, I think, was a bit more chaotic, and then at times Philly Pittsburgh was a bit more chaotic, but you haven't really seen that with Anaheim, Edmonton, Montreal, Tampa had its moments, but it's such good hockey that I don't think they want the scrums anymore. They just want to play. And you didn't really see that.
I mean, we've seen more scrums than we were used to, I think. And then we talked about Ottawa, Carolina, where they had that 1 second period that was like pure unadulterated chaos and everything. But that again, that it also comes down to team identity, and I think we are seeing a little bit more. Some of the way the Panthers won is they bullied teams, right? So I think you are seeing teams try and do that as well, which is why we're seeing this.
Yep.
And it's great.
Yep.
So I've said this multiple times, and hockey, and specifically NHL hockey, is at its best when it blends speed, skill, and violence in a way that's entertaining.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's it'll be interesting going forward here. what happens is we're in the second half of the first round, and yeah, we go see what's going on. Anything else we should touch on here?
Not at the moment, Kev.
All right. Yeah, we had one other topic. We'll save it for next week or next time we get together. We'll leave it here because we're a little over our time. How do we follow you?
I'm Bearded Canucks 03, and I'm hoping that this time next week we will be talking about the Canucks having the first overall pick.
Yes, the draft lottery next Tuesday at 4 Pacific, 5 Mountain. So see what happens there. Follow Tyler at TNOBLE, Chris is Schneid's SCHNEIDZ, Devin Gordhouse09 on Twitter, although he's never on it. I am KEVOLE on all the social medias. And yeah, again, condolences to the Garrett family and everybody else. We will treasure you and miss you. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.